This story is just a disaster from beginning to end. Viva Frei, Montreal litigator turned YouTuber, and this is Winnie the Westie. This is the tragic story of Mohammed Anwar, the 66-year-old Pakistani man who emigrated to the United States for a better life and was killed in an attempted carjacking by assailants who were 13 and 15-year-old girls. In order to provide for his family, Mr. Anwar was an Uber Eats driver, and he was carjacked at taser point by a 13 and 15-year-old girl, and when he didn't give up the car, he ended up being driven off with the car crashed, and he lost his life. Everything about this incident is awful and tragic. If you haven't seen the video, I don't suggest you watch it. I saw the video. Part of me was just saying, why don't you just let the car go? But when you realize that he's being carjacked by girls who are 13 and 15 years old, you can sort of take for granted that he thinks this is all a joke. They're not even old enough to drive, let alone carjack a car. I suspect he just could not believe that this was for real, that he's being carjacked by kids who are 13 and 15 years old, and before you know it, he's being hauled off in the car, ends up in a crash, and dies. And in the aftermath of this crash, which happens to happen at the feet, quite literally, of National Guardsmen who are just standing there on the street, you have these two kids, 13 and 15 years old. All they're concerned with is the fact that their phone is still in the car while someone lies on the sidewalk dying. And the news of the week is that these kids apparently struck a plea deal which will result in no jail time, which has left people with very different types of reactions. Now, for those of you who have been around the channel long enough, you know that I often say that when it comes to law, there is the legal side and there is the human side. Let's just try to deal with and understand the legal side of this incident. If these kids were over 18 or could be treated as adults, this would be a felony murder case, no doubt about it. The accused were committing a felony armed robbery or armed carjacking, which led to a death, hence felony murder. The only extra detail in this case is that the accused are 13 and 15-year-old girls. Now, apparently under DC law, a 13-year-old can never be tried as an adult regardless. A 15-year-old can, under certain circumstances, be treated as an adult, but apparently in this case, they didn't go after treating the 15-year-old like an adult. They struck a plea deal, and these two kids are going to see no jail time at all, apparently. Instead of felony murder, the two kids are going to plead guilty to second-degree murder while armed, and apparently they're not going to do any jail time, which leaves the question is, how do you treat accused who are 13 and 15-year-old kids? There are people out there who are going to say they are 13 and 15-year-old kids, they know darn well what they are doing, lock them up for life, they killed a man. I don't know that I can necessarily agree with that. Sometimes the difference between tragedy and just living to see another day is an absolute fluke. And just by way of anecdote, when I was a kid, I was a total idiot. Kids are idiots, and I did things that were not as stupid as this, but pretty close, and I got away just by the skin of my teeth by the luck of the draw. By way of one example, when I was 14 and my brother was 16 and had just gotten his license, we thought it was a good idea to take my parents' car joyriding late at night after midnight. We took the car around town and ended up on a football field that had these mountains of grass on both sides, and being idiot kids that we were, my brother was trying to drive the car up the grassy hill but couldn't do it because the car would lose traction and slide backwards. I was sitting in the passenger side enjoying the ride when my brother put the car in park, opened the door to see the marks that we had left on the hill, and me being an idiot kid that I am, I put the car in drive, put my left foot over the divider of the car, slammed on the gas and spun the wheel in a circle, and the car just did a big circle on the grass, and my brother got pulled out of the door. The car did 2 or 3 loops in the field while I'm trying to drive it, holding onto the steering wheel. From the passenger side, my brother had fallen out on the grass, and I did 2 loops that came very close to him, and but for the grace of God, I could have just as easily run over my own brother. The car came to a stop, my brother got back in and said, "What the heck did you just do?" And we all had a laugh, went home, and went back to bed. Now, true, this is not an armed carjacking at taser point, but it's something that is pretty close to being as stupid as that you would never expect to end in the tragedy that happened to Mohammed Anwar, which could have just as easily happened to my own brother. The reality is that kids are kids, their brains are not fully developed, they have no concept of the potential consequences of their actions, which is why I suspect Mohammed Anwar didn't even take this threat seriously, seeing a 13 and 15-year-old girl trying to jack his car when they don't even know how to drive. In my case of infinite stupidity, my brother got up, got back into the car, and we went on with our lives. In their case of infinite stupidity, they ended up killing an innocent man. You know, I don't exactly know what the purpose of that anecdote was, except to say that but for the grace of God, we've all done very, very stupid things, say even bad things that have not resulted in such horrific consequences. The question is, how do you address this problem? Is the solution to take this 13 and 15-year-old kid, lock him in jail, and throw away the key? Is the solution to punish these kids so they live the rest of their lives with the tragedy they caused, but give them the chance to rehabilitate themselves, I don't know what the solution is. All that I know is that the solution is not quite as simple as saying lock them in jail and throw away the key. The solution is not to politicize this particular incident, because yes, the two girls happen to be black, and people are going to say, well, if they were white and the victim was black, the entire situation would be different, etc., etc. Yes, these hypotheticals might play a role in the politics of things, but not in the legality of things. Politicizing tragedy is good for politics, but it's not good for resolving the tragedy, and it's certainly not good for policy. The bottom line is that this is just a failure through and through. Kids, for lack of a better word, are idiots. That's why they need adults in their lives to talk some sense into them and to make sure they don't commit really egregious acts of stupidity in their idiotic years. I don't know the adult situation in these kids' lives, but obviously something was lacking for them to think it was a good idea to try and carjack someone's car at taser point. But now what do you do that this tragedy has occurred? Do you punish the kids for the rest of their lives, or do you try to use them as reasonable examples to make the world a better place going forward? The reality is, I don't know what the solution is. All that I know is that I have been sufficiently close to the line that I can say, but for the grace of God, that could have been me in their shoes when I was a kid. Alright, and with that said, sorry for the downer of a vlog today, but this is just a tragic story from beginning to end. But if you like my videos and you like my vlogs, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, yada yada yada. If you want to support the channel, all the support links are in the pinned comment. Robert Barnes live streams every Sunday, weekly interviews every Wednesday called The Sidebar. We have a page on locals called vivabarneslaw.locals.com. All of my content is also on Rumble, but more important than any of that, take care of yourselves, check in on friends and family, make sure everyone around you is doing well, and now you know your vlog. Peace out.